hello, ladies and everyone streaming in. Welcome to She Has Infinite Potential. I'm never going to get all tired of our intro music. Like, that is just, I'm like waiting for it, jamming in the background. But welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are talking about the best and the worst career advice that you have ever heard or received. And I cannot wait because I know that you guys have some gems and some pretty hilarious things to share. So today's going to be an awesome session. I am your captain for today on the ship. My name is Malia. And today we have Kirsten, Chloe, and Dr. Farzana. Hi, everyone. And I do want to just highlight, we have a special event coming up. So in case you haven't heard, we have our one-day summit, the Savvy Ownership Summit, where we're going to dive into 5 areas of ownership in your life. So we're going to transform your time, your failures, your money, like all sorts of things. Guys, one day transformative. I really hope to see all of you there. These ladies and the rest of the She Has Infinite Potential SHIPmates will be there dropping knowledge like left and right. So I cannot wait for that. That's going to be October 7th. So make sure you sign up for that. I think we still have a few early bird tickets. So make sure you grab that. The links should be in the chat. See it below. All of those good things. Okay, all right. Announcements. I want to get into the good stuff. Hi, ladies. So tell me, should we start with the good advice or the bad advice? Which one do you?
Bad.
Let's
end on good. End on good.
End on good. I think so too.
Yeah. Let's start with the miserable failures. I can't wait. So who wants to go first?
And we all freeze.
I know.
No.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Advices.
I'm gonna go first just because mine is a little bit of a hot take and it's kind of spicy. And I welcome discussion on this. So one of the worst pieces of advice that I ever received career-wise was fresh out of, I want to say I was fresh out of grad school. And I don't remember who it was that said this, but they essentially said, hey, just find a mentor.
And that was the end of the advice.
That was it?
That was it. So, okay. Reason number one that this is so deeply frustrating to me. Like, where, how, sir, explain, right? Who, what are the qualifications? What are the characteristics of an excellent right? It's not like they are advertising on Craigslist or something, right? So like,
and if they are,
exactly? Right? So that's reason number one, that it's just not actually helpful advice. And isn't advice meant to be helpful by like definition? Someone confirm in the chat. So just one, unhelpful. Two, it's completely, oh gosh, what's the best way that I can describe this? It ignores power dynamics. Maybe I'll say. It completely ignores power dynamics. Because it says, hey, you person, under-recognized or not, it is totally safe for you to go out and seek a mentor just anyhow, anywhere, and you'll have the same opportunity to find a great mentor. No harm will come to you for seeking out or trying to be vulnerable with somebody. Nope, it's gonna go great. It's gonna go great. There are no
what could go wrong.
Nothing could go wrong here, right? And if we zoom in a little further, right, just looking at the idea of, okay, let's say that I look for a mentor and the mentor ends up being someone who has more power than I do, right? How do I safely navigate that relationship? What if it's somebody who has the same sort of like social identity as me, but they're maybe a little further along in their journey, right? Does that account for the imposed scarcity that has sort of been placed in the higher echelons of careerdom, right? Does it account for the ways in which that person may have had to adapt to survive in that place, and how that might mean they may have to harm me, right? Like, none of this. They're just like, find a mentor, da 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 da, right? The more you know.
Yeah.
It's
I
kind of
love
like
it.
telling like a 10-year-old, go drive to the store, make dinner. They're gonna be like, there's so many questions. Like, it's probably possible, and everybody does it all the time. But this 10-year-old does not have the guidance, the knowledge, the experience. They need somebody to guide them, and then go to the store, get food, come back and cook. I don't know. Like, if when I was 10, I wasn't able to do those things, right?
Listen,
So
okay.
whenever we get advice that is intended to be good, but it's not considering the actual person who's receiving it, or where they're at in their life, or what support they would need to be able to actually execute, it almost is like you're making fun of them. Like,
Yeah.
like it's not actually helpful. And you're just like, hey, go do this thing. You got it.
Well, it sounds like a cop out, to be honest.
Yeah.
It sounds like, here, I'll give you the magic button. And now it's on your responsibilities on you to go figure out how that works in your life when you don't have context.
Yeah.
We need context and guidance. Anybody in the chat, anybody watching ever receive very vague advice that had no context, and you were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but I don't know how.
Yeah, give us a yes or a one or some kind of emoji.
Right, a confused emoji, like
vague advice is the worst.
And I also want to expand on the topic of mentoring. Can you all see me?
Yes.
So thank you for bringing this up, Chloe, and saying that it was a weak or worst advice. Like any other relationship, mentoring is a relationship, and the imbalance in the power and privilege of the person in the traditional forms of mentoring has been harmful for people who have received it and people who are giving it, because it needs that magic connection which cannot be prescribed in the form of the characteristics. Oh, if you check all these boxes, they are kind, they are listening to you, they are giving their time to you. But if they don't understand where you need to go and you don't understand who they are, it is better to move on to a new relationship for the mentoring. And that was the reason that the research which I did and identified 6 different types of mentoring relationships which can happen. So the worst advice can actually be a good advice depending on who is giving it to you and where you want to go. There is a thought now that the idea and the concept of mentoring should be taught at very early stage in the school, so that when someone says go find a mentor and it will be a magic touch, it should be a magic touch at that point if you are equipped with that knowledge. So I like that you started it in that connotation, and what good we can get out of it.
Thank you, Dr. Farzana. So look, if you guys have questions about how to get a mentor, what a mentor-mentee relationship looks like, how to get the most out of your mentorship relationship, some goals that you can set for yourself. If you guys have specific questions about being a mentee, being a mentor, anything in that umbrella, make sure you sign up for the SOS Summit, because you are going to be able to submit your specific questions and we will answer them for you during the event. So make sure you give us those questions so we can help you specifically on the areas that you need, because we don't want to give you any vague advice, guys. So Meg, you let us know and we got you covered, okay?
Awesome.
Not Malia coming in with the meta thinking. Oh my god.
Yes. Awesome.
So
Well, I'm gonna
let me get another bad one.
Yeah.
Let me, Kirsten.
So I'm gonna take it a little different, which is back to when I started in technical training. So I was in occupational therapy. I worked at Easter Seals. I got laid off and I got sent to unemployment and told, you're going to do computer training. And my response was, no, I don't want to. And they were like, well, tough. You need to do this. So I started learning the ropes and then got hired as a trainer because I'm somebody who can talk to strangers without wanting to die. That's not common. So they hired me to go into the training program. But what I learned in my first year and a half there was rules that I had to actively break when I went independent on my own. Because and if there's any trainers in the chat, throw into the chat if this has been your experience. What I was taught and what was the career advice was you have to know the answer. So if you don't know the answer, you have to pretend that you know the answer and then wait and be like, well, we're going to cover that at break. And then at break, we'd have to run back to the break room and scramble and ask other trainers and look it up and then remember to address it later. It completely sleazy, but the whole idea was you're not allowed to actually have an honest, open conversation in integrity with people. And it's yeah, like Kristen's saying in the chat, it's like, never break your confidence. It's like, no, you can always say, I'm not sure, I'll look that up. You can always say, you know what, I'm not clear, but I will address that at X point. Or there's ways to handle it in integrity, but oh no, you never ever, you never don't know something. It was what was true. It was what was common in my industry when I started 20 years ago. And it's sleazy as hell. It's just awful. It's just awful. And Anne is saying, I will blatantly say things like, I don't know, let me find out and I'll get back to you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. And that's like an industry culture.
Yeah.
That's
crazy. It was really baked in where I came
an
from.
Industry culture. So there are industries that are on 24/7. Right. And so they'll tell you, you have to respond to emails at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night. They're going to tell you that you need to drop your family vacation and be in the office because of this. There are industries that will tell you, you have to dress beautifully and wear makeup every day. There are industries that, right, in order to meet the level of success within that industry, you have to do things that feel sleazy, don't feel authentic to you, right? And so I think when we go about what our lives are supposed to look like and we're thinking, oh, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a this, I want to be a that, like really take a look and take the time to research, like what does it look like to be in that industry and what are the expectations? Because knowing that, you're going to have to put up your boundaries at some point, irregardless of the industry that you're in, it's better to know ahead of time what battles you're going to be fighting so that when they come and they say, hey, this is what we expect, you can respectfully, I will find out later and I will let you know.
Right? Yeah, boundaries are professional.
Yes.
Lack of boundaries is not professional.
Mm-hmm.
And going back
again, boundaries are professional. Lack of boundaries are not professional. Just chaos.
Yes. And going back to where Kirsten has started, that having that you should know everything, it dehumanizes you. Absolutely. And it created the power imbalance because then your audience or your clients don't relate to you. You are so high up on the privilege and power that it does not make a meaningful sense to people who are hearing you. So being an authentic self is the best advice I have received. And the worst advice I have received in not being an authentic self is you should change your appearance. Your hair should look sleek and straight. You should have a proper makeup on because people don't take you seriously. And I don't think actually that works in the industries or the professions anymore.
All right, let's jump right on that. How many people, and I can't say this because I literally am the most Caucasian person here. How many people had their natural hair be something that they were given crap about? Like, yeah. I'm the only one in this that did not receive that because I have the default standard of what the baseline is, which is also really twisted when you think about it.
Yeah.
And the whole, the kids who got, who they had dreads, perfectly fine. They got them cut off in certain schools because they were unprofessional. And I'm like, what are you doing to that kid?
Disgusting.
You're teaching them that they are like, you can do that to their body. You can take bodily autonomy without like all the things. Just no,
Yeah.
no. And
Yeah.
Kristen in the chat, I've been called out on my hair and I'm white. I've been called out on my makeup and clothes. Yes, Kristen, exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And to take it a step further, right? So I work in a male dominant industry, construction, hard hats. There were days where I wanted to wear big, fluffy curls,
Yeah.
but I knew I was going to have to shove all of that and try and be safe in the field. And you have to adjust and everything, but just the fact that somebody, so our worlds are designed around this default around what is expected. And oftentimes we have to conform for safety purposes when it's necessary. But sometimes people give you that advice thinking that they're going to help you fit the mold so that you can be successful. But really all they're doing is taking you out of the picture.
That's exactly it. Like, so Kristen is creative and dynamic and has colored glasses and has a beautiful artistic look. To be giving, and I've received stuff, she's received stuff. We've all received feedback of, oh, you need to look like X. If the person is truly being themselves, then maybe they look different than the standard. And why is that an issue? What is that bringing up for people that the rule has to be, oh no, you must look like this? It's like, what's going on there? What's under that? Let's look at that. Let's lift up that rock and look at the things crawling out underneath it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody who's watching this, if you've ever felt like you had to, quiet down who you were as a person or change the way that you look or come to the table or the way that you put yourself together to meet a mold, I just want you to know that we've all been there and we totally understand what it is to put on the face, to put on the whatever, to get through the day. And know it can be tiring. I know it can be exhausting, but I just want to encourage you that you can find your voice, you can find your identity and package it in a way that is still professional and still authentic to you. There's a balance, of course. And I believe that this group of women have mastered it. So if that's something that you're struggling with, I want you to come to our summit. I'm going to keep saying it over and over. Honestly, because there are times where looking different and being different can make you really feel like an outcast. And it's just not an experience we want any of our shipmates or anybody on board this journey with us to have to experience. So if that's something you're struggling with, come to the summit. Make sure you submit your questions on it. So if that's something that you want us to spend some extra time on, got you.
Yeah. And I did.
Hi, Kat in the chat. Hello.
I did want to bring up a couple of things before we move on. And I'm so sorry about that. I actually have no idea what time it is. So stop me at any point. So one, it's the idea that I fear that like folks will hear the idea of like looking professional or compromise and will think that that means that they actually have to smother themselves. And I just want to like bring out here that no, that's not the case. That's not necessarily the case, right? That if you are intentional about it, if you're able to sort of, and usually with support, analyze which things you're willing to budge on and which things you are not, right? Then you can choose. You can have the autonomy to choose, right? And this is just to say that like we still live in this world that's been built for the mythical norm, right? The straight white man who is thin and well off and all of these other things, right? And so that's why, crash dummy tests don't account for the smaller frame of women and more women die in car crashes because of that. That's why hard hats look a certain way, right? That all of the stuff, right? We're still built and we still live in this world that's been built for that. But if we understand the ways in which that's the case, and then we can negotiate what we aren't willing to budge on and what we will budge on, I think that's a much more
empowering place to be.
Yeah. Like just having the choice, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I wanted to stress.
Thank
The
you.
second thing, and then I promise.
The second thing is going to be at the SOS Summit.
Yeah.
So make sure you get your ticket.
Oh, Queen,
Yeah,
well
I'm
done.
just watching the clock. I want to make sure we have some time.
No,
to
absolutely,
give
absolutely.
advice. Sorry, Chloe.
No, you're so fine. You're so fine.
But okay, so quickly, I want to share my worst advice, and then we'll switch gears and go to our best. So I was a young engineer. It was my first year, and I was presenting to corporate global management for this project that I was working. That was like this big deal. I didn't really understand at the time. I was just trying to do my job, but they were there, and I understood that they were big wigs, you know. And so at the end of my presentation, I sent them an email. I said, thank you so much for coming today and engaging in the presentation. If you have any feedback on how I can be better, or whatever, please let me know. I'm a young engineer and I look forward to my career. So your advice is valuable to me. And I CC'd my boss and the director over my department just as like a courtesy.
Mhm.
Later on, someone, we'll just call it that, someone comes up and is like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't email them. You shouldn't be talking to them directly. And like, okay, hindsight, yes, running a global conglomerate company is probably very demanding and they probably have secretaries. There's probably a process. But don't tell a young engineer who's trying to improve themselves, who's fearlessly presenting in front of global leadership, don't ask for feedback. You're just a hater. you're just trying to block my shine. If I did it improperly, this is a coachable moment. And you can say, hey, at that level, you go through these procedures, or if you have a one-on-one personal connection, maybe that's fine, but this is the proper way to do it.
That's it.
Don't just say no and walk away. And so like that really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, well, how do I get better? How do I know if I'm doing well? And it just really kind of put me in this like weird little spin. I got out of it because I was like, that person's hating. No, I'm going to continue to do what I do, and it's done very well for me. But I just feel like it was maybe more of a reflection of that person than it was of actually what was happening. So I say all that to say, even if you don't know how to do it, if you're trying to improve yourself, if you're trying to get feedback, if you're trying to do those things, it doesn't have to be done perfectly. But just, I want you to give yourself credit for that. Right. And anybody who's trying to stop you, they're haters. Anyways, so let's do a fire round. Okay.
Yes.
I want to hear the best advice that we've ever gotten.
I want to hear from Dr. Farzana.
Yes.
Okay, so I think I already said it, but I will emphasize on it. The best advice I got, and I got a little late in life, that you should be yourself. Who you are, what you come across, what you stand for. Authenticity is the best policy, virtue in that regard. And that makes people feel that you have a credibility and what you are saying is authentic. So, authenticity is the best advice I have received.
I think we should make that one of these lunch sessions on authenticity, because I feel like we could literally talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
ever.
Authenticity. Awesome.
Chloe, best
okay.
advice.
Oh my gosh, this is hard. And I truly did not think about this question because negativity bias. But I think I would say, if I was going to continue from the worst advice that I brought up, was when somebody described to me the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, and expressed to me that I would need both. Now, the reason that that was such good advice to me is because it reminded me and planted a seed in the back of my head that there are various kinds of stakeholders all around me that are required for my success. And I should continue to attempt to not only be aware of who they are, but to build relationships with them and to continue to cultivate those relationships as I expand my network and my sphere of influence. And so just understanding that there are different kinds of stakeholders, and they all have different needs and motivations and that sort of thing, super key for me. And it's one of the things that I've carried throughout my entire career in the work that I do now. So yeah,
Even hearing you explain it now, I can still hear the aha moment where you were like, "Oh, so these people support me in different ways. I
yeah,
get it." I can
exactly.
hear the aha in your voice. I absolutely love it. And again, if you guys are submitting your questions about mentorship and you're like, what is this mentorship sponsorship? Wait, hold on. There's levels to this. Let us know when you get your ticket, submit your questions, and we will break it all the way down for you at the summit. Thank you so much, Chloe, for that.
Yeah, absolutely, Kat. Also, I'm just seeing Kat
Yeah.
in the chat. You can be that them for someone else. Absolutely, yes. Mwah.
Kat, we love you.
Best advice, Kirsten.
Best advice is actually what we heard before from Dr. Farzana, but I'm going to take a spin on it, which is I have really stuck on my marketing, as y'all know, and as Kat knows, and as other people in the chat know, because being 100% myself, I keep derailing into, oh, but I'll annoy people. And people in this call and people in the chat have all said to me, those aren't your people.
No.
And if you annoy them, that's a good thing, because then they can go find the person they want to work with. And the people who want to work with you will lean into it.
Yep.
And I believe Kat was like, so get over it.
That's right.
Which I love her for.
That's
love
right,
you,
Kat.
honey. So that's the best advice.
Yeah. And it holds very true. It holds very true. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna jump in and share mine. The best advice that I received was actually at a NSBE conference. It was a speaker. So like shout out to all the speakers out there dropping gems for people, because it really does make an impact on people's lives. But the best advice I heard was, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And that released me from perfectionism. And since then, I have been fearless about trying things. I have been just eating up lessons from every failure. I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, we're gonna adjust, do it like this. And it just really takes the fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear that, oh, well, if I try and it doesn't happen, I wasted all my time and energy. And it's like, no, actually, all of that is necessary. And the faster you can do that, the faster you get to the success that you want. Right. And so like I that was while I was an undergrad. So that has been a lesson that I've taken with me through my entire career, and has really been an evolution and a journey of being able to fail forward, fail fast, fail with intention. So if that's something that you're interested in, that is one of our sessions at the SOS.
Bravo!
And I've been an athlete too. So like just the principles of it within sports, within career, within who you are as a person, it's really been a game changer for my life. And so we're going to break that down for you guys at the SOS Summit, so you can let your perfectionism go, let your fear go, and step into your full potential, because we here at the SHIP believe that she has infinite potential and you do as well. So I want to thank you ladies for this session today. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I've missed you guys. We were on our little summer hiatus. I totally missed you guys. So I can't wait for us to get into our summit, our sessions, all of that good stuff. So thank you all for coming and hearing about the best and the worst career advice that you've heard. Let us know in the chat which ones really resonate with you. And until next week, guys, I think that's it. Any closing comments from me?
Nope. Just come join us. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be so much fun.
Questions.
Yes, we want to see you at the summit and be yourself and just continue to shine.
Shine. Thank you all, and have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, ship shape.